This is about when you have people who do not understand technologies, regulating those technologies, there's always going to be a friction because they don't know what these technologies are capable of. And I also don't think AI will create as many jobs as it displaces, because this is the first time we've had a technology that doesn't only, it's not a tool, it can actually operate tools. I'm going to be going through the news of the last couple of days for artificial intelligence, going through the updates. I'm doing this live on YouTube, on TikTok, on Instagram, probably some other platforms. If you want to see what I can see on my screen, the best place is going to be on YouTube. I haven't worked out how to do it on TikTok yet. I think I need to buy a whole new PC to do that. But if you are here on TikTok, I'll be explaining what I can see, so don't worry too much if it is more comfortable to stay on TikTok. And good morning, everybody. So the first thing I wanted to talk about today is, well, there's quite a few topics, quite big, heavy topics for the end of the week. It is Friday. It's also, July 4th. Happy Independence Day to any American viewers. A couple of things. Regulation, fun. Cloudflare's new scraping policy. So stopping AI bots from scraping websites. This is a big issue. There's going to be potentially disastrous for AI companies, but I also think changes fundamentally how the internet works. So I want to talk about that as well. And then there's a video I just watched by Nate. I'm sure a lot of you know him, Nate B. Jones, who's one of the most knowledgeable guys on artificial intelligence out there. He put out a video 3 days ago called Catch Up Before ChatGPT 5, Your Complete AI Guide, Timeline, AI Basics, Resources, and Who to Follow. I want to overview that video and shout it out because it's a really good video, and I want to make sure that more people know about it. You should be following him anyway, because he is just one of the smartest guys in this particular field. But let's kick off with regulation fun. As always, if you have any questions, drop them in chat and I'll be able to loop back to them. This is entirely live. I am not AI. I should be AI, really. But no, this is me with my morning coffee, basically going through artificial intelligence news and updates for the day. And I do this anyway, so I've started to do it live instead. So first things first. So Ethan Mollick, who you should be following on anywhere he is, this is actually his book, Ethan Mollick's Co-Intelligence. It's going to be backwards on TikTok, like everything always is. This is not how I look. I'm actually flipped around. So this is Ethan Mollick's Co-Intelligence book. Smart guy, and you should be checking his stuff out. He is a professor at Wharton. So he put out a tweet. This was today at 4 a.m., so I guess last night. One theme I keep seeing in companies is that their AI policy groups they set up in 2023 are now barriers. Often they are built to address potential ethical, privacy, and security concerns that are no longer relevant with today's AI. There are new concerns and are unable to adapt. I thought this was a really interesting tweet and very, very true. A lot of the people who are setting up regulations, a lot of the people who are thinking about ethics and policies and guardrails for artificial intelligence are doing it based on the AI from 2 years ago when the first public ChatGPT really came out and kind of blew everyone's minds. That's when these initial steering groups, these politicians or these corporate teams were put into play to come up with the guidelines, the ethics, the AI policy. That was 2 years ago. AI has come quite far in 2 years. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but quite a lot has happened in 2 years. But unfortunately, these people, this comment below is great. He's a guy called Andrew Main. He says, a lot of people who develop environments, these are people who they develop in word processors, not in IDEs. So these are not coders. These are not people who work with computers. These are people who write in Word. So they're not necessarily the right people who should be coming up with these policies. It made sense when it was theoretical, but now we need people who can build and test ideas directly. So this is particularly relevant because right now there's been a bit of a push. Well, there's a small push in Europe against AI regulation, and there has been a huge push in America against AI regulation, which did not work. But basically, so this is the Financial Times. European CEOs urge Brussels, so the head of the EU, to halt landmark AI Act. So I don't know if you remember, it would have been a year and a half ago or so. The EU announced their EU Act, and it's going to be the best regulation of AI anyone had ever seen. And I love this meme. Sorry, on TikTok you can't see it. It's a very good one. It's basically the meme of the guy standing in the corner at a party, and he's saying they don't know we have the best AI regulation. What the EU was going for was regulation rather than progress. So they started to regulate rather than building AIs, whereas America got on with it with Google, Meta, OpenAI, Anthropic, etc. And China got on with it with DeepSeek and various and Quen and lots of other different players. The EU had Mistral in France. That's it. I think that's it. And so the EU was lagging behind, and instead of saying, "Oh, we need to get on," we need to get on this, we need to start catching up. Instead, the EU reaction was to regulate and to push back on artificial intelligence, which I think was a mistake. But yeah, there seems to be a similar feeling going on. Obviously, there's a lot of factors here, but there seems to be a loosening in the AI Act coming from the EU because they realize it might be too strict. And this is always going to be a problem. This is not anti-EU. This is not any, there's no political stance here. This is about when you have people who do not understand technologies, regulating those technologies, there's always going to be a friction because they don't know what the technologies are capable of. And with a technology like artificial intelligence, which is moving so fast, what you write 6 months ago is no longer going to be relevant because law takes a very long time to shift. It takes a long time to write and to go through all the different processes. It's always going to be lagging behind. So yesterday we talked briefly about Disney. Disney are suing Midjourney. So there's a big question of intellectual property law. The issue right now is that our law courts and our laws around intellectual property just aren't cut out for dealing with artificial intelligence and generative AI. They don't know how to deal with it. So we need these kind of cases to basically work out what we're doing with intellectual property, what we're doing with artificial intelligence. It needs to go through this process, and it's going to be extremely messy for the next few years. There's no way around that. So in the EU, though, the chief executives of large European companies, including Airbus and BNP Paribas, have urged Brussels to halt its landmark Artificial Intelligence Act, as the EU considers watering down key elements of the law to come into force in August. Oh, okay. That surprises me. I thought it had already come into force. Okay, so it's taken such a long time that it hasn't even kicked in yet. Okay, that's telling. It's been years of writing this act and getting it ready and making sure it's the perfect act. But in all of that time, AI has changed. It's changed a lot. Hello, Jenny. Yeah, I've got some questions here. Do you think AI is going to make it harder to get a software dev job? Yeah, actually. So one of the other big stories from today is Microsoft are cutting 9,000 more jobs, and they're putting that money into AI. So this was yesterday. So Microsoft confirmed it will lay off as many as 9,000 workers in the latest wave of job cuts. At the same time, they're spending $80 billion additional on AI, specifically for data centers. So they're cutting 4% of their workforce and taking that money and shoving it into artificial intelligence. So this is just Microsoft, obviously. That's not representative of the whole industry. But I think in terms of getting dev jobs, I was about to say what we won't see is jobs getting taken directly by AI. We might be seeing that already. I think it's a more subtle mechanism where instead of demolishing jobs, what will happen instead is there will be less entry-level jobs. So if you imagine a company as a pyramid, at the bottom, there's always going to be more entry-level jobs than there are kind of senior and then management and then leadership jobs. There's always going to be more at the bottom. AI is really good at whatever's at the bottom. And this is the same across all industries. So the legal profession, you have like legal clerks down the bottom. Accountancy, you have people at the bottom. Like all of the different professions, all of the different jobs, general jobs are now at risk because a lot of it is no way around this, is quite mundane algorithmic work that can be done by an artificial intelligence. So what I think we're going to see over time is the bottom of that pyramid will get reduced. So we won't necessarily see jobs being taken directly by AI, but we're going to see the bottom of that pyramid start to shrink because less new jobs are created, because the same number of people can do more work using artificial intelligence. What happens though, this is going to be really hard to do with my hands. I'm not sure why I'm doing this with my hands. What happens though is the pyramid will start to collapse at the bottom, and we're going to have an unbalanced pyramid. If you look at like the population chart of a country like Japan, you'll see exactly what I mean here, where the pyramid starts to collapse at the bottom. What happens there is you have a very unstable structure, and it also means you need less people at the top. If you have less people at the bottom, new hires in an organization, you need less managers. If you have less managers, you need less leaders. So it's going to ripple up that pyramid over time. So the question was, is it going to be problematic to get a job? Yes, it's going to be harder to get a software development job. It's not going to be impossible. And if you are already a software developer and you're higher in that chain, higher in that pyramid, you're probably okay. There's a lot of people who are managers and leaders now who are probably looking at this and thinking, I just need to wait out the clock. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to resist this as much as possible so I can get 5 years, 10 years from now, I can retire and I'm good to go. They're not the people I'm worried about. I'm worried more about the people entering the job market now, because they're going to get screwed by the decision of the leadership just to ignore AI. So the people at university now, the people entering the job market now, they're the ones who are most at risk from this. And I think the entry-level jobs, the lower-level jobs are going to be decreasing due to AI. Well, I mean, we're seeing 9,000 jobs, 4% of Microsoft just got cut. That's a lot of people in a company that large. And it's not because they don't have money, it's because they want to take money and put it into AI. I think we're going to see a lot of that across the board in software. So it's probably not the answer you wanted, but I don't like it when people say, oh, no, it's going to be fine. AI will create more jobs. Yes, it will create jobs. That's not very helpful for you right now with your skill set, because yes, those jobs might be created, but it might take 10, 20, 30 years. You right now have a particular skill set. So you're sitting there like, well, that's fine for those people, but what about me? And that's an entirely fair way to think about it. And I also don't think AI will create as many jobs as it displaces, because this is the first time we've had a technology that doesn't only, it's not a tool, it can actually operate tools. I think it's different. So prior to this, we would create a tool and we could use that tool to replace human labor and make us more efficient. But all we did was just use that to increase our efficiency overall. And there were still jobs for people. They would just be using the tool. The human continued to be the operator driving the combine harvester or whatever it is. Now, though, we actually have a new technology which can replace the operator. So it means you do not need a human to operate the tool, because the AI can operate that tool and all the other tools themselves. So for the first time, we have something that can replace our kind of cognition and not just our ability to operate a tool, if that makes sense. And I need to flesh that out more, I think. But I truly believe this time it is different, which is why it's important to have additional sources of income. Doesn't matter what they are, but right now being diversified, having multiple things on the go is probably the best bet, because we don't know what's going to be around in 5 years. So if you've ever wanted to set up an Etsy jewelry shop, for example, this is the time to do it. Or if you want to, do something on the side, daycare, whatever it is, this is the time to do it, because I think having multiple different sources of income is going to be the best way to weather this out, because we don't know what will happen to each of those sources of income, if that makes sense. Cool. So where was I? I was talking about regulation. So the other big regulation news was in Donald Trump's one big beautiful bill. On Tuesday, okay, so a couple of days ago, there was a moratorium which had been kind of added into the one big beautiful bill, which would have said you cannot make state regulations of artificial intelligence for 10 years from now. So it was going to be a law that stopped you making laws about AI for 10 years in order to deregulate the industry and allow them to do what they want basically for 10 years. So that was going to be added into the one big beautiful bill, but the senators got rid of it as part of the negotiations for that bill. So a significant defeat for the tech industry, which had lobbied hard to keep the provision. Oh, they voted 99-1 to remove the provision. Okay, so it wasn't even close. Companies such as OpenAI and Google previously argued in support of blocking states from regulating AI, so as to avoid what they said would be a patchwork of rules that could hamper innovation. But critics on both the left and the right, 99-1, said the AI moratorium, which had earlier been approved by the House, was an attempt to forestall any attempt to regulate new AI systems. I mean, yeah. Many also noted that Congress had not passed any significant new tech rules in decades, meaning that a ban on state AI regulation might effectively mean no regulation at all. Okay, so I think this is sensible. I think a law that bans laws for 10 years, that is too sweeping, that is too wide. Regardless of what the content is, regardless of what the niche is, I think that was a crazy thing to suggest. And I am pro AI, but I think that kind of moratorium, which says we're not going to look at this for 10 years, we're not going to think about it, we're not going to have any laws or any discussions about this, that to me seemed mad. So I'm glad that that has been shot down. So what we're seeing here is we have in the EU, we have an organization, a body that is about to, it looks like, successfully regulate AI and basically kill off Europe's or the EU's ability to compete in the AI race. I'd argue they've already fallen too far behind to be a competitor anyway, but this is going to final nail in the coffin. Whereas in America, we have, tried to remove any regulation whatsoever. That was tabled, but then it was actually, I think, for the better, rejected. So we're seeing two very different ways of approaching regulation here. But I think this is a process, and we're just going to have to, over the next few years, work out what this looks like for humanity. I don't have the answers. I'm sure no one does really, but we'll work it out. Cool. So that's the first thing I want to talk about. The next thing was Cloudflare. But let me see if there's any questions. May I ask the source of your income, Kyle, says Finn. Multiple sources, personally. So the business I run at the moment has 5 or 6 revenue streams, I think, with the express purpose of what I just talked about. We do not know what the future holds because of artificial intelligence. The only thing that I know is that AI is causing a lot of chaos. I was actually at a dinner 2 or 3 weeks ago with entrepreneurs in London, and 2 of them that I talked to had big 7-figure businesses. They were doing well, which were threatened, and they were winding them down or pivoting them because of artificial intelligence. So these are businesses that have gone on for 5+ years. They're making them a few million a year, but all of a sudden they were not viable because an AI tool had entered the market, which basically did the same thing for a fraction. I'm not going to be able to continue this business. So I think the only defense we have against that is to have multiple sources of income. So personally for me, I give workshops to businesses. So I go into a business. When I do that, I charge about $1,500 an hour, so $1,500 an hour. The most I've charged is $4,000 for 1 hour, going and talking on stage, talking to them about artificial intelligence. So that's one way. I also license out my materials, so people can license my workshops and then go and charge companies $1,000 an hour, $2,000 an hour. So I get paid for licensing my materials. I also have a newsletter, so that allows me to run sponsorships. That allows me to run adverts within the newsletter. So that's an additional income source. TikTok pays me a little bit, not very much though. And God, what are the other ones? Oh, book sales. I publish books on Kindle. I should have a list of this all somewhere. And then I have various courses and things that are connected to the newsletter, educational content, which people can purchase as well. So I think there's probably 6 different sources there. I also do consultation and advisory outside. So there's kind of a wide breadth of income, because I know if one of these gets demolished, at least I have some other things in play. And I think that's the sensible way to do it moving forward. Whatever your niche is, whatever your industry is, having those multiple different revenue streams protects you. It's diversification, basically. High frequency fitness. How can I get involved in what you teach? So I do run cohorts. The latest one has just started. It started on Tuesday, where I license out my materials. So I'm not trying to sell anything on this call. But if you are interested, the best thing to do is to check out my newsletter, Prompt Entrepreneur. When we run the next cohort, which should be a few months from now, then there'll be details in there about that cohort. And again, that allows you to license my materials, but I also teach people how to find clients, how to customize workshops, how to deliver workshops, how to facilitate, basically, and therefore how to build a business off the back of it. So if you join the newsletter, then the next time we launch that, we'll be announcing it. So yeah, we just launched on Tuesday, and I had my first live call with the new students yesterday, which was fantastic, because it's people from all over the world. It's really cool. So yeah, you can definitely check that out. Life Being Free said, best way to transition from digital marketing to AI. So this is very close to my heart. 3 years ago, I ran a digital marketing agency, so primarily helping people to build funnels, sales copy. I did a lot of the technical back end, so funnel building and advertising. And when GPT 3.5, the one of the first kind of public big splashes in modern AI, when that came out, I remember thinking like, "Oh, this is going to be a problem for me, and this is going to be an issue as a digital marketer, because it can do a lot of this stuff very well." So at that time, I started to basically read and write and learn as much as I could about AI. I think if you are running a digital marketing agency right now, the best thing you can do is just to start to implement AI into your digital marketing. Most people already are. Lots of agencies are. What I would say, I was talking to a guy called Dan yesterday about this. He's UK based, and he works for digital marketing agencies. And what a lot of them have right now is the digital marketing agencies out there are trying to pivot. They're trying to work out how to deal with AI, because their clients are asking for AI. So the digital marketing agencies have clients. The clients are like, we need AI. What can we do with AI? But the digital marketing agencies don't necessarily know the answer to that. So a really good niche you can kind of move into right now is to help the digital marketing agencies provide education and to provide help for their clients. So you talk to the marketing agencies and you get them to pipe you through to their clients, and then you split the cash. I think that would be a solid option right now. But obviously that requires learning as much as you can about artificial intelligence and how it can be used in marketing in particular. Thankfully, there's a huge number of things it can be used for. So Jenny, you're bringing me back on track. Cloudflare want to put security measures with AI scraping data. Yes, this is what I want to talk about. So Cloudflare are, how would you describe them? They're a CDN, but how do Cloudflare describe themselves? What exactly does Cloudflare do? Here we go. It's an American company that provides content delivery network services, so CDN, cybersecurity and wide area network services, reverse proxies, domain name services, DNS, ICANN, accredited domain registration, and other services. Okay, a whole load of gobbledygook for most people out there. So don't worry. CDN, God, how do I don't want to get this wrong. So what is a CDN? It is a geographically distributed network of servers that caches websites' content closer to users, improving website loading speeds and overall performance. Okay, so the internet, I don't want to describe how the internet works, but basically whenever you go to a website, your computer is sending a ping message to another computer sitting elsewhere saying, hey, I want to access this website, send this back to me. And so the server, the kind of host computer, will send back the information in that website to my laptop or my telephone. That takes a long time sometimes because it's a long distance to go. So what a company like Cloudflare do is they will place a another server closer to me, and they will save copies of the website so that it can be more quickly accessed. So instead of me going between my computer and the server computer, which is a long way, the CDN, like Cloudflare, will sit here closer to my computer, and it will have a saved cached version, which will allow much faster loading times. So that's basically what CDN does. Thank you. Somebody was giving me hearts while I was explaining a CDN, which is probably the most boring concept I can describe. So thank you for the hearts on out there. And what Cloudflare have said last week is that AI is a threat to the internet, and they think it is unfair that artificial intelligences like ChatGPT can go and visit all of the websites on Earth and take the information from them. So the technique that the AI companies use is something called scraping. They have a little bot, a spider, a little piece of code, which basically goes to all of the websites on Earth and asks that website, hey, what have you got for me? And then takes that information and takes it back into the AI, basically, into the large language model. And then it's used for training. So this is not new. This is how the internet works, basically. So Google has spiders, and you can actually, I won't demonstrate it, but Google has little bits of code which go around the internet, and they read every single page pretty much online to see what each page has. This is how Google ranks pages on Google search, by going and visiting them. Literally, they send a spider, which is a small bot which collects information, and then Google knows, okay, this site is good for this. I'm going to show it to more people, very basically. So the internet has always worked like this, and it has to work like this because there's so much of it. There is so much information out there that we cannot order it and sort it and show the right things to people unless we send out these spiders that collect all this information. So this has been happening for basically as soon as the internet left DARPANET, we had spider bots in place which would scrape the internet. So that's going on. The problem right now is that increasingly all that bot traffic is coming from OpenAI, ChatGPT, or it's coming from Google via, for their Gemini model, or Anthropic for their Claude model. So there's a huge amount of scraper traffic coming from the AI companies because they're pulling all of that information into their models in order to train. So Cloudflare have said, hey, that's not cool. What Cloudflare want to suggest is a pay-per-crawl method. So every time that spider bot lands on a page, the AI company will have to pay. And it's going to be like 0.00001 cent or whatever it is. It'll be a small amount, but because the AI companies are hitting so many websites, that means a bill will start to accrue. And then what Cloudflare is saying is that they are going to then work out, I don't know how they're going to do this, but they will pay the website owners. So instead of it being free public access web content, which is what the internet is right now, they will charge the AI company based on the bandwidth, how much data they're pulling in, and then get that money back to the people who own the website, which in theory sounds really cool. There are some problems with this. First of all is the fact we need to look at Cloudflare's motivation for this, because Cloudflare basically, as the internet changes and as we stop using things like Google and we stop visiting websites themselves because we don't need to as much because everything is in AI, that makes Cloudflare less valuable, and Cloudflare will not be needed as a service, and the company will be demolished. So Cloudflare are kind of their existence is a function of the way that we currently access information on the internet by literally going to a website and seeing what the information is. We're already seeing this type of behavior online crash out. So ever since Google added the AI overviews to the top of their search results, lots of people are seeing search traffic landing on their website decreasing because obviously the information is right there. So if I look up a lasagna recipe, and Google gives me that lasagna recipe at the top of the page, there's no need for me to click through onto that, the actual website. So this is bad for the website creator, because they're no longer getting their advertising revenue, they're no longer getting their traffic. This is also bad for a CDN like Cloudflare, because the whole purpose of them is to allow for faster delivery of the website. So if nobody's going to the website, then Cloudflare is not needed, and Cloudflare will cease to exist, basically. So we have to keep this in mind when we're looking at what Cloudflare are suggesting, because it seems like, oh, they want to pay the small creators. Oh, aren't they nice guys? Like, hang on. This is an existential threat for them. So this, I think we have to keep in mind as the underlying factor, the underlying reason why suddenly they are the protector of the small people. It's because otherwise their multi-billion-dollar company will cease to exist, and that's going to be unpleasant for them. So what they're trying to do is basically monetize the process. And they're trying to patch that up and make that seem like it's a virtuous thing by saying, oh, we're going to give some of this money back to the original content owners, which I think is a great idea. We just need to be careful about how it is being done, because they are placing themselves in between. And if they become the de facto service that does this, then what happens then? They can crank up their rates, they can start to charge AI more, and they can give less of it back to the creators, and then they're going to be making a profit in between. It also threatens the idea of a free internet, because it makes it pay for access in a weird way, with Cloudflare being the people, the arbiters of who pays what for access. And again, it's a private company, so we don't know what their we do know what their motivations are going to be. The motivations are going to be to make money. So it's how much we trust them to have the good of the internet, and how much do we think they're just going to try and make money. So the pros for this would be compensation for value. Yep, content creators will be paid. That's fantastic. I don't know how much they're going to be paid. He didn't really give the details, but ideally that would be great. Then it reduces like low quality spammy crawlers as well, because there's a cost to sending out your crawlers. Then this is going to block it. But the flip side of that is the only people who are going to be able to afford to do this will be the big tech companies. So OpenAI, they'll just say, okay, this is just another expense, so we can continue to train ChatGPT. We'll just pay the bill, basically. If you are a small AI startup, or you're building your own model, then you will not be able to, unless Cloudflare give you a lower cost or whatever. So what this means is there's kind of a barrier to innovation here, because the smaller AI startups or researchers may be locked out because they won't be able to afford are charging. So I think this is a real issue here. Because Cloudflare they've become a toll collector. They're standing on the bridge and saying, you may not pass until you pay us. So they are a toll collector, but they are self-appointed, and they're going to be collecting the same toll from everybody. So if OpenAI come along, OpenAI will just say, yeah, sure, here's your gold piece, whatever, and they'll continue to collect their data. Whereas let's say I'm a researcher and I'm doing some research, scientific research, or sociology research, I won't be able to pay that toll unless there are academic considerations. So it's closing off the internet for everybody, and only the big players are going to be able to pay here, which is a bit worrying. I think there's also a fragmentation risk. So as soon as Cloudflare do this, all of the other CDN companies are going to be like, that's a good idea. And they're going to do that too. And we're going to end up with loads of different CDN companies, or basically gating access to the internet. And it's going to really complicate crawling in general, and we'll have incompatible policies and a risk of abuse as well. I think also enforcing it, how's it going to be enforced? Like there are lots of technical issues here, but I think the big thing is web openness. This is basically eroding the principle of an open crawlable web. So there's something called a robot.txt, which is one of the foundations of the internet and how the internet works and how it is about the open sharing of information. This is closing that off and saying, no, only certain people will be allowed to crawl. And if you are crawling, there's going to be a cost which the big companies can pay, but not necessarily the small people. And this self-appointed private company, Cloudflare, is going to sit in the middle and collect that toll and collect that cash. That's what I don't like. I think there are huge potentials for abuse here. So I think the idea is good of paying the content creators. I think the implementation and the fact that Cloudflare are saying we'll do it and we'll take the money is potentially problematic. Now, the ideal situation would be OpenAI and Anthropic and Google and everyone else, Microsoft, pay the content creators directly. What's happening now is we're seeing deals being cut with Reddit, with the New York Times, Washington Post, etc. That's basically what's happening, where these models were initially trained for free just by scraping everything, and they knew what they were doing was cheeky, absolutely knew what they were doing was cheeky. There's that meme of Mira Murati, who was the former CTO of OpenAI, where she was asked in an interview, have you scraped YouTube for information? And Mira's face, just because she can't lie on camera, but she's not going to answer the question straight either. So there's this beautiful photo, you should look it up, of Mira Murati like, I'm in trouble. Because these companies have all scraped they've absolutely scraped everything, and they knew they were not allowed to do that. They knew it was a very gray area. So what they're doing now is they're paying the New York Times, they're paying Reddit, they're paying for these large media companies as a way. It's basically it's don't ask for permission, but beg for forgiveness. And they're begging for forgiveness by paying and doing these licensing deals after the fact, after building their models, which is cheeky, but they seem to have got away with it. So yeah, Cloudflare, I think that's going to be messy, and I'm not sure if they are the right people to be protecting us, basically, a self-appointed guardian. But we'll see over the next few years. So Microsoft, okay. Biden says, certainly the internet is going through a big change and challenging to get traffic to websites. Yeah. So anyone who's in the SEO space or anyone who relies on AdSense or any other or traffic just for your business, they're hurting right now. So if you go on the subreddits for SEO and for digital marketing, a lot of it is, hey, has anyone noticed there's not much web traffic anymore? Because AI is eating up those clicks, basically. It's interesting though, because we assume, in the West at least, we kind of assume that websites are the de facto way to get information. So I've lived in China, and websites are not the normal way. Instead, everything's done through WeChat mini apps. So like a local restaurant, it will not have a website, but it will have a WeChat, like a little page on WeChat and an ability to contact them. So just because websites have been the de facto paradigm for the last 20 years or so, does not mean it's the only way to do it. It's just we're kind of locked in that idea that that's how businesses and individuals should operate on the internet. They have, you have an email address, you have a website, and that is the proper way to do it. I think less and less that's the case, because we can, for example, we can use other platforms, social media platforms. You can have a presence online using them. Arguably, you don't own that data. No, you do not own that data. So there are problems there. But there are different ways of interacting with the internet, and generative AI is just a new way of doing that. There are then questions of, okay, if we stop writing blog articles, if we stop writing websites, if we stop writing newsletters, what's AI going to train on? Very good question. Extremely good question, and a big problem for AI. Oh, yeah, Bryden saying, I love ChatGPT to recommend my services. Yeah, so this is, we still haven't worked out what we call it. So it's either AEO, artificial engine, no, AIEO, but that sounds artificial intelligence engine optimization. So instead of SEO, it becomes AIEO, but it sounds like, or McDonald had a farm, so it's a terrible name. Or LLMEO. We haven't worked out a name for this, and they're all terrible. But basically the idea of, all right, how do I get ChatGPT to recommend my business? How do I get it to recommend my services? The first really important thing to do is make sure you have registered your website using Bing Webmaster Services. The reason is ChatGPT is owned, it's built on the Azure servers. They use a lot of Microsoft in the back end, and they check the indexing on Bing rather than Google. So make sure you are indexed with Bing Webmaster Services. This is the number one tip I've seen from people who are in this sphere, is a lot of websites will only register their website and submit their sitemap to Google, but ChatGPT, because it's aligned with Microsoft, are actually checking the Bing record. So do that first and foremost. And then I have seen people who have done very well. Just maybe pull her up. So check out Tech Friend Lan. Where is she? She's on TikTok. Struggling to find her. I'll drop in a link somewhere, but she's been doing some experiments with AIEO, AI engine optimization. AIO, that's probably better. AI, yeah. Anyway, and this will be a huge question for SEO companies because they're going to have to pivot away from how do I get to the top of Google to how do I come first on ChatGPT. I would say a lot of it is very similar to SEO. So as long as you have a good web presence, as long as people are talking about you, so other websites are linking to you, people in social media are talking about you, you have citations and references in like newspapers and reputable sources, all of that is still heavily weighted. So in the same way that on Google, all of that stuff helps you get to the top of Google. It seems to be very similar with getting to the top of ChatGPT. Sorry, getting to the top, that's old language. It seems to be the same with being recommended on ChatGPT. So if you build your footprint online and offline, that gets picked up by ChatGPT in the same way that it gets picked up by Google. So there are probably hacks and strategies, but at the end of the day, it's all about building something that's valuable, being known for building something that's valuable, and building a brand around that. If you can do that, then ChatGPT will start to pick you up as well. Go to medical pre-qualify. Oh, I've got someone going off. Yeah, so Bryden, we'll check. I'm on Bing Webmaster. Yeah, just make sure you're submitted there as well, just because it's apparently helps you. So the other thing I wanted to quickly bring up was, if you're not following him, definitely do. There's a guy called Nate B. Jones. He's on, I think his primary platform's probably TikTok, but he's on Instagram and he's on YouTube. He does longer form videos on YouTube, and the one that I want to talk about was Catch Up Before ChatGPT 5, Your Complete AI Guide, Timeline, AI Basics, Resources, Who to Follow. What I wanted to show you in particular was the who to follow, because I thought there's a really, really good list. So I've actually thrown it into Notebook LM. I don't know if you know about this, but if you, so Nate's videos are fantastic, but he doesn't add captions and he doesn't summarize them. Oh no, he has summarized them. Okay, he started to summarize them. Sometimes when you have a long video and you want to get the information out of it, you can go to Notebook LM, which is it's based on Google Gemini, but it allows you to throw in YouTube videos. So you put the link to the YouTube video and it will summarize the YouTube video. It will pull out information and then you can ask questions about the YouTube video. So in particular, there are 12 people that Nate highlights in the video. And instead of me going through the video and showing it to you on the screen, I can just go to Notebook LM and say, hey, who are the 12 people? And it can pull out that information. So if you are on YouTube, you can see what I'm looking at right now. Notebook LM is a fantastic tool that a lot of people are sleeping on. 11 individuals, or 11, who provide valuable signal over noise. So Simon Willison, who co-created Django and coined the term prompt injection. Ethan Mollick, who I talk about a lot, is fantastic. A Wharton professor, influential in AI and known for clearly describing AI's impact on academia and work. He's very active on LinkedIn and Twitter. Andre Karpathy. If you have not watched Karpathy's videos on YouTube, I highly recommend them. Oh, somebody's calling me. They're not short videos. They're a couple of hours long, but Karpathy he's a rare thing. He is an engineer that can actually explain topics in a way that is understandable, which is incredibly rare and incredibly valuable as a result of that. So he's done a few videos. Let me pull up. The most recent one is, the deep dive into LLMs like ChatGPT. It's a 3.5 hour long video. So take it slowly, like watch bit by bit. But he's just a very good educator. So definitely check that out. Sam Altman, okay, yep, he's the OpenAI CEO. These are the most influential people you should be following. Dario Amodei is the Anthropic CEO. He's been a lot more vocal recently. Generally, he's he was quite quiet for a few years, just getting on with the work, but he's suddenly become a bit more vocal about what AI is about to do to jobs. Demi Hassabis, he won the Nobel Prize in 2024 for his AlphaFold work in chemistry, a leading mind in AI, especially on the science side. Also a fascinating guy who works for DeepMind. If you haven't seen it, seen that? Yeah, he is. There's a great movie called AlphaGo, which is about the time when DeepMind was built to beat Lee Sedol, the Korean Go master, the Go champion. It does not sound like an exciting movie, but it actually is. It's a really good movie. I don't know if it's on Netflix or Prime, but it's a really interesting story because they go over there to beat this Go master because that had long been the goalposts are always moved in AI. So initially it was like, oh, a computer will never be able to beat a chess grandmaster. And then it beat chess grandmasters and chess became a solvable problem. So the critics were like, oh, well, okay, fine, it can do chess. It will never be able to do Go. That became the next goalpost, shifting the goalpost back again and again and again. And then so Google got to work with Demi Hassabis and his team, and they built an AI called AlphaGo, and then there was AlphaZero, and there were 3 models, I forget all the name. And they went out and they did an exhibition match against Lee Sedol, who's a grandmaster Go champion, and beat him. And the movie follows that journey. And it's quite sad because obviously the engineers are excited. The first time it beats Lee Sedol, it's I think 5 games. The first time it beats Lee Sedol, they're ecstatic. They're like, oh my God, it's going to do it. And then it beats him again. And they're like, oh, okay, yeah, we're really going to do it. And then it continues to beat Lee Sedol. And you can see this joy turns into this kind of melancholy, like, oh, we've just built something that can beat a man who spent his life committed to this. And so, because Lee Sedol, obviously, this is an emotional journey for him, suddenly being beaten by a computer. So the engineers, you see that empathy as well. It's like, we have built something which is fantastic and it's amazing, but at the same time, it's taken something that was uniquely human, and it can do it better than the human. So for that reason, it's worth watching. It's not just how great is AI, but also, oh, okay, this is potentially problematic too. So yeah, Dario Hassabis, Leopold Anchenbrenner. No, I don't know him. Oh, okay. So former OpenAI founder, now founded Safe Superintelligence. That's the one with okay, there was some news about that, but I'll cover that tomorrow. Focusing directly on superintelligence. Claire Vaux beat ChatPRD and is a leading figure in applying AI in the workplace. Okay, that is somebody I need to check out. Dwarvesh, a popular Silicon Valley podcaster known for interviewing interesting people and having deeply thoughtful conversations. Mary Meeker, who is renowned for sharpness and insight into deep trends in investor level tech. So yeah, these are the 11 people that Nate B. Jones recommends you follow if you want to keep up to date with what's happening. It's very hard in AI because there's so much news all of the time. So cutting through that noise and finding the actual signal, like what actually matters, is tricky. And so these are the guys that Nate B. Jones, who is, I would recommend as somebody you follow for Signal. He's recommending these people. So he's somebody who's very knowledgeable himself, recommending these other knowledgeable people. Lila, I didn't know you could give links to TikTok videos as well. Oh, can you? I'm going to try that. Or is that based on what I said? I gave it a YouTube video. Let's see if we can do TikTok. Funny enough, Nate B. Jones is the first one on my page. Let me grab a link. It shows you how much I watch Nate B. Jones when he's my first TikTok. I think it's only YouTube. Yeah, it's only YouTube. Unless there's another way to do it. So I just gave it a YouTube link rather than a TikTok link. So what it does though is it checks the transcript of the YouTube video, but the new Gemini model has a really cool thing. The new Gemini model can actually watch videos. So previous video to text artificial intelligences would basically taking the transcript, and then it seems like magic, but they're just reading the transcript and then telling you what it says. The new Gemini model will actually watch the video and see what's on the screen. So that's a step up. But I still use, if it's for YouTube and I just need a quick summary, the Notebook LM is fantastic, because that's all you need is going to be the transcript. Cool. Awesome. So I've covered everything I want to do today. Again, this is an experiment where, because every day I basically read the news, I work through what's happening online. I figured I'm just going to do it live, and take a few questions as we go along. So if I did not get to your question, but there's a flurry of stuff on screen, and I have 2 other screens in front of me, and I'm also live on the other channels as well. Oh, Gemma. Hey, Gemma. Gemma's watching from LinkedIn right now. So what's going to be happening is I'm going to refine what this looks like, maybe bring on guests. I'm also going to be converting this into like a micro summary newsletter. I'm working out how to do that, taking a video file, transcribing it, chopping it up, etc., etc. So there's a whole bunch of things going on. So you are watching this live. You're watching me build out what this is. So I'm also very open to suggestions about how this could be shaped up. Because there's a big dilemma, like, do I try and do it clean so that it looks good on YouTube, or do I do more of the interaction, talking to people? I think I prefer that, even if the topics aren't as focused, even if it's a bit more rambling. I think that's a bit more interesting, because otherwise, why do it live? Anyway, I am going to hop off, and I'm going to go boxing, because that's what I do. So thank you so much for joining me, and thank you for all the hearts. That's amazing. And have a great day and a great weekend. Thank you all.